Vault Veritas SCP Files. Episode 20 Intrusion. Incident Report 1943-1 Addendum. Additional eyewitness testimony from Incident 1943 involving the raid of Chaos Insurgency Transhuman Task Force Zeta-3 on site number redacted. Object Class: Euclid. Risk Assessment Level: requires further assessment. Reported by Level 1 Chemistry Laboratory Technician Elias Duncan. Report's date is redacted. They're coming back, aren't they? Nobody's given us a straight answer. But they were so insistent on taking Sarah that they simply must be coming back. Oh, you security types can deflect and placate and reassure, but once the Chaos Insurgency has a goal in mind, they don't just quit. We will be attacked again. What have you done with Sarah? I know you keep saying you're keeping her safe, but you have to know how that sounds, right? Technically, you can spin it that we're keeping all the anomalies safe, but the amount of poking and prodding and testing done, you're not going to put her through that, right? She doesn't deserve that. She's a good person and a good friend. I wouldn't stick my neck out like this for just anybody. Sarah Grunwald and I started at this site at the same time. We onboarded together. You remember how disorienting onboarding here is, right? Sure, you have a general idea that you'll be working with dangerous anomalies when you first sign up, but you never know just how intense it can be. Then you start reading the entries on the different entities and objects. You start seeing just how many incident reports there are attached to each one, and by then it's too late to back out. Sarah and I joked our way through orientation, doing our best to make light of the situation. We weren't going to be directly dealing with the anomalies. We'd be in a lab. So it wasn't too hard to push down the growing unease and try to convince ourselves that we were safe. Sarah had this little go-to joke where she'd pop her collar and put on her best snarky professional voice. "Just don't think about that." Or, "Well, we can't save everyone." She'd make fun of our lead researchers like that all the time when we were alone. She wanted to think about the other end of the research, you see. How the Foundation was applying the data we gathered. She didn't want her work to hurt anyone. She has a good heart like that. I swear to you that in the 3 years we've worked here, I've never seen anything I would consider anomalous about her. She was a bit shy, but gentle going, and everyone in the lab liked her. She was diligent, always completed her work on time. She had no access to anything that would have affected her mind or cognition. She's just an ordinary woman. I have no idea why the Chaos Insurgency is after her. Why they attacked yesterday in such force, and with the single-minded goal of capturing her. As far as I'm aware, it was just like any other day. I met her in the lab at 8 a.m., the two of us replacing the overnight technician. Our lab has been working for the better part of a month on an ongoing solutions test. Apparently, there is a particularly dangerous Keter-class anomaly which they store in a vat of hydrochloric acid in order to keep its insane regenerative capabilities at bay. We've been tasked with finding an alternative chemical solution that can target and denature the anomaly's tissues and counteract specific regenerative enzymes. It's meticulous work, and a complete fool's errand if you ask me, since they refuse to send us tissue samples to analyze, just diagrams and texts on previous analyses completed. Apparently, even the smallest piece of that thing is too dangerous to leave containment. I'm not sure what they think we can do without it, though. We can't exactly test the solutions we're making. They've made the work nearly impossible. Look, the point is that it's interesting and important work, but we're not being exposed to anything that the Chaos Insurgency would take an interest in. Sarah wasn't even preparing the solutions herself. She was mainly involved in data recording and inventory management. That particular morning, we were on equipment maintenance cleaning centrifuges, the most boring and mundane task imaginable. We were joking around about how the only thing spinning faster than the centrifuges was our patience with this tedious task, when a huge explosion rumbled through the facility, throwing us against the lab benches and knocking several test tubes and beakers onto the floor, causing them to shatter. The alarms blared instantly in response, and we heard the telltale click of the lab door security bolts as we were locked inside. Sarah was the first to her feet, crunching over the glass to kneel by my side and help me up. She hadn't been hurt, but there was a look of sheer, wild panic on her face. We both ran to the door, trying to peer outside, but all we could see was our stark and bland hallway, peaceful as ever, save for the ongoing wail of the alarm. Sarah looked at me and tried to give a reassuring smile through the anxious twitch of her lips. "Well, that's one way to shake things up around here," she attempted to joke. I couldn't help but laugh. It seemed so surreal that the nervous, high-pitched laughter just rolled out of me, surprising us both. If there was anyone to go through a crisis with, it was her. Who else would be able to joke in the face of chaos? But when the distant gunfire began, my laughter died as suddenly as it had begun. We just sort of looked at each other, completely still, trying to process what was happening. As though some invisible person fired a starting pistol, we both synchronously turned on our heels and bolted for the supply closet at the far end of the lab. It was cramped and filled with shelves of equipment. Several containers of compounds had been shaken onto the floor, and their contents formed a pungent dark brown layer of liquid that we really didn't want on us. Carefully stepping around to the sides, we maneuvered ourselves into that cramped space and swung the door shut. I have no idea how long we stood, cramped together in that claustrophobic darkness, hearts pounding, muscles tensed, ears straining for the approach of whatever or whoever was coming for us. We didn't speak, but we still comforted each other, reaching out in the darkness to grasp hands as we waited for the end. If you've never waited, helpless and petrified, for something that you cannot see and do not know or understand to come bursting through the door to kill you, then you cannot understand just how long each second seemed to stretch. Each heartbeat, each breath seemed so loud. There were more gunshots, closer now. Screams and raised voices, muffled by the metal-lined walls of our closet. And all we could do was wait. I almost punched the Chaos Insurgency agent who opened the door. I'm not sure what he would have done if I had. Probably shoot me, I'm guessing. He was clad in a tactical black uniform, with the red and black symbol of the Chaos Insurgency stitched over his chest. He wore a heavy-duty ballistic vest, and thick padding covered the rest of his body. Someone had shot him in the arm, clear through the padding. And what I saw through that hole was not shredded skin and oozing blood, but the unmistakable glint of metal and the shine of hard plastic. The insurgent shoved the barrel of his rifle in my face. For a moment, I could feel the hot pain of a bullet piercing my skull. But it was nothing more than my imagination. He did not seem to care one bit about me, assessing me instantly as not a threat. Instead, he grabbed Sarah and yanked her out of the closet, dumping her unceremoniously upon the floor. "Got her!" he yelled to the other agents who were flooding into the room. Many of them were coated with splatters of fresh crimson blood, but it was definitely not their own. For through every wound, every knife slice or bullet hole, was the same cold, lifeless metal and plastic. Sarah made the most terrified yelp I've ever heard, and I just watched, frozen and helpless, as those inhuman agents dragged her out of the room, leaving me alone among the shattered glassware. That's it for what I personally witnessed. Everything else I know comes from pieces and stories I've been told. That Mobile Task Force Nu 7 just so happened to be in the area on an unrelated covert assignment and ambushed the Chaos Insurgency team as they were bringing Sarah back out of the site. That the entire attack, their breach of the walls with C4, collapsing several passageways to prevent the timely response of security personnel, and their mad dash towards the lab, that it was all in search of Sarah, all simply to capture her. But that can't be the whole story. The agents, they weren't human. Or maybe parts of them were. But they'd been augmented, reinforced, altered genetically, thaumaturgically, and cybernetically. They were robotic soldiers, masquerading in the skin of people. The insurgency sent a team of super soldiers to capture her, and when they failed, many of them self-terminated rather than be taken alive for study. Why go through all this for Sarah? Why was she worth such a huge risk and such intense expenditure? What they lost to capture her, all their agents save one. I don't understand. They made a mistake. Sarah Grunwald is my friend, and I swear to you she's human. She's a funny, kind, scared, and likely traumatized woman who should be able to just keep on living her life. She doesn't deserve to be locked away and tested and analyzed. But I know you're not going to listen to me. I know there's not much point in trying to change your minds. The Chaos Insurgency took an interest in her, and you're all going to go to the ends of the earth to find out why. Just, please, if you see Sarah, tell her that even though everything seems like it's spinning out of control, she knows better than most people just how to filter through the chaos. This report was sent to me by Miranda after I asked her to clarify who the Chaos Insurgency is and how they came to be. If this is her version of a joke, it's even less funny than Elias and Sarah wisecracking about centrifuges. This report doesn't tell me anything useful at all.
Or perhaps you're simply not reading in between the lines well enough.
Mary, I'd honestly forgot you were in the office today.
With Niall locked up and Seth wandering the halls barking security orders at everyone, I figured lying low was a good plan. I'm behind on my paperwork anyway, just trying to catch up.
Sorry to distract you with a recorded report then.
That's okay, it's no problem at all.
What did you mean about reading between the lines, though?
I believe Miranda is trying to tell you about the values of the Chaos Insurgency. They don't much care about their agents. Agents are tools, to be modified and twisted to fit a purpose, and to be treated as expendable if they don't serve that purpose well. They can be deadly with the tools at their disposal, with the augmentations they can go through, but ultimately they are still defeatable.
I suppose that's good to know, yes. But it doesn't tell me anything about where they came from, or why they're after Niall. Or Sarah, for that matter.
It's hard to know for sure. Their exact origins are a closely guarded secret that neither one of us will ever have the security access to know. But we are all told that the majority of their agents were Foundation at one point. The Chaos Insurgency is primarily made up of former Foundation personnel that have been corrupted by power and greed. and after they've turned, they pop up like children's boogeymen, attacking Foundation sites, killing personnel, stealing and corrupting anomalies. All officers are warned against them and their potential recruitment tactics. Usually the tactics are more on the violent explode your way through a site like in the case of Sarah Grunwald, and less on the subtle manipulate you into searching for us and speaking to us alone side they tried with Niall. But I suppose I can also see why Niall is a bit of an exception for them. He's not an anomaly they're trying to wield and control. He's a notable Foundation officer that they want to sway morally while keeping his intellect and capabilities grossly intact.
So you believe that Sarah is an SCP?
I believe that they believe she's an SCP. Who knows why? We really don't know much about where they get their information from. Perhaps she really is an SCP and just doesn't know it. Perhaps they wield some insight into the anomalies that we do not. What does it matter?
It matters to Sarah. The database states that she's been trapped since this incident, contained by the Foundation and rigorously monitored. She's a prisoner.
And it's for the best. If we release her and she is an anomaly, she's at risk of causing a security breach and can seriously affect the lives of people around her. But even if she isn't an anomaly and we release her, it's only a matter of time before the Chaos Insurgency gets a hold of her because they think she is. And you better believe they won't treat her as well as the Foundation is. At this point, containing her is the only option we have.
Indefinite imprisonment for something she has no control over is wildly unfair.
And yet that's just how life in the Foundation is sometimes. We live and act as best we can in a morally gray world.
Well, regardless, I appreciate the insight into the Chaos Insurgency.
You're welcome. Let's hope that we don't get any more tangible insight from here on out.
Indeed.
Vault Veritas SCP Files is a podcast inspired by the SCP Foundation. Intrusion is based on SCP-1943 by Elana from the SCP Wiki located at scpwiki.com/SCP-1943. It is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 3.0 unported license. This episode featured Justin Gellner as Scott Anderson and Cody W. as Meriwether Parker. It was written and edited by Leola Angel. We welcome comments. Please rate and review us. Email us at vaultveritas@gmail.com. Join our Discord channel using the link in the episode description. Tweet us at Vault Veritas. Or for additional content, visit our Patreon. Thanks for listening.